Good morning, good afternoon. I guess I should say it's 12 o'clock, just afternoon. After high noon, January 9th, we are rocking. We are getting, the word is getting out. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Let me get it out right away. Subscribe, like, comment, especially comment, send emails, send comments, and let's keep it going. Today, I'm going to do something just a little bit differently. And I think what I want to do is that, some people, I listen of course, I got to keep the show real and authentic and true to who I am in the morning and in the afternoon and in the night, and say what's interesting me, counting on that. Maybe there's a good chance it interests you. One thing I am hearing though, but then I hear things and I say, that's a good idea. And part of it's certainly not a news show. This is complete commentary and cultural perspective. But it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt to keep, and we are relevant. We talked about yesterday or 2 days ago, we talked about Mark Zuckerberg and how 5 months ago, 6 months ago, we put out a series about Mark Zuckerberg and Dana White and Johnny Lawrence from Cobra Kai and Trump after the assassination attempt. And we talked about and then, 5, 6 months later, we see a big change in Zuckerberg and some conservative commentators, and I'm not linking myself with them. I'm a constitutional conservative. Let's be clear about that. But listen, I'm open to redemption. I'm open to change. I'm open to people growing and moving. And some are just slamming Zuckerberg. It's all ploy. See what happens? And we all have to be careful about this. We get so used to fighting that we don't allow anybody to change. We're so busy trying to convert people that we won't even let them convert, because then we won't have a job. So be careful of these commentators who are always yelling, always screaming, and skeptical to the nth degree. Of course, we have to be awake and sober and realize there are ulterior motives, and call out people when they're disingenuous. But look, we're just as guilty. If we do that, we're just as guilty as them. That's not dialogue. That's not growth. It's not evolution. It's not flow. It's not a growth mindset. It's not in the spirit. The word spirit is what's happening here. So let me pull up my Real Clear Politics page and start talking to you. So today, I got a good conversation. It ended up a conversation with Rob. Some of you remember Rob. Rob was on the show, and it'll probably be on again in the future. That, it's the idea that, sometimes it's just also just going through the news and what's important. What do we need to go? Like, what do we need to see? We have the cultural, the athletic, we have the religious, the spiritual, the literature, but of course the political, huge. Okay, so what I want to do today, and I'm going to share. Let me share my my page with you right now. Okay, and getting better at this, I think. Okay, let me bring up my Real Clear Politics page with you. All right, so you are seeing that, correct? I always ask that because I don't want to go on and then find out you aren't with me, or I wasn't with you, whichever way we look at it. Okay, Thursday, January 9th. There is a lot going on here, okay? So many stories lined up, but what I do is I line them up against the screen. I line them across. What's interesting, listen, full disclosure, sometimes I haven't even read the article. I read part of the article, or it's just a theme that it's something we're building on. I do that on purpose. I want you to know that. I want to discover it with you, okay? It's not, none of this is scripted. There's really no plan except going through, finding things that are interesting. And what's interesting, it may be an Instagram post somebody sent me about coaching, like it was a few days ago. Great one, right? It may be the liturgical time of the year in terms of Christmas or New Year or Easter or 4th of July, Thanksgiving. It may be a bumper sticker I read on the street, okay? And it's definitely the feedback I receive from you, because it is a dialogue. This is a cultural dialogue with me and you. I'm repeating myself, and I know I repeat myself, but that's just the way it is. And you know what? That's okay. Some people don't like the show. They don't like the show. But what I do really like, I love the idea that people are listening to the show in the background. It doesn't have to be you want to sit and watch. It's great too. But it doesn't have to, you're working, you're cooking, you're working out, you're running, you're driving in the car. You got a plan. Everybody has their role. It's the kind of guy in the office whose job is just to stay abreast. So, hey, guys, you notice that? You guys got things to do. This is what I have to do. So we come together. We work together. I think that makes sense because our subscribers are going up. All right. First thing I want to start with is Jimmy Carter's funeral taking place right now. God bless his soul. Okay. I'm not going to say much about Jimmy Carter. I will say, of course, we have to say a little bit, so if you're my age, 52 years old, of course, Carter was president, 76 to 80. Okay. And then Reagan came in, right? And the great malaise of the Jimmy Carter presidency. God rest his soul. And when someone passes, we should always try. We should. I do believe. I think you have to be honest. You can't rewrite history. I mean, he as a president, he was what he was. And, there's a reason people say, is this guy the next Jimmy Carter? Meaning not exactly in a complimentary manner. So, we had the hostage crisis. Remember the Iranian hostage crisis? Remember that? Inflation, crazy inflation. I mean, we barely remember if you're my age, but I mean, I remember enough that things were not great. Do you remember I remember sitting in the car waiting for gas because there was a shortage. There's a little gas station up at the corner. It was near Hot Shots. Hot Shots was this little store, we used to call them a stationary store. And you'd go in and we'd get some hot shots. And there was also a little gas station, a little red one. It was on Long Island Avenue in Long Island. And Long Island Avenue calls path on the corner. And I remember waiting online there. A couple of doors down, there was the fish lady. This is funny. It brings back memories, And come on. We all got these memories, right? The fish lady was a couple doors down. It was just a house. And my mother would pull in the back. And on Friday, we ate fish all the time. See how culture changes? Friday was fish day. You didn't eat meat. So we would get flounder. And this was the fish lady. The husband fished and we'd pull up. She'd come out of the house. It was a detached garage. She'd open the door would be open ready. There were coolers in there with not coolers like coolers you bring to the beach, but like industrial coolers. And we'd pick out the flounder. We'd bring it home. My mother fried up in a pan. It was great. It was great. Chicken cutlets. When I was a kid, chicken cutlets and mashed potatoes. That was my favorite. And of course, I love Friday flounder. One last thing about growing up, except the one I think maybe my favorite thing to eat was Stella's meatballs next door. So we had a great Italian neighbor, Freddie and Stella Skirbo. Wonderful people. Wonderful, great. And I loved her meatballs. They were really good meatballs, but I didn't like the sauce on them. It's not that I didn't like the sauce. I preferred them without the sauce. So she would cook them. She would fry, she would, I don't know if she baked them and then fried them, saute. I don't know what she did. I don't know. But then we had shrubs between us. At a fence, a metal fence, chain wire fence, and shrubs. And she would say, and she would call me, Howie, Howie. And I would go over and this hand would come through the shrubs, with a meatball in a paper towel. And I'd take, oh, thank you, Stella. Stella's gone now. She died recently. But God rest her soul. She's just as important as Carter. Every soul is important, and we do pray for the peaceful repose of Jimmy Carter's soul. He was a man who afterwards, I think, sincerely tried to make the world a better place. Let's go into what I want to talk about. All right, so here we go. The article that I want to talk about is the following. Let me bring it up and stop sharing one, share the other one. And here we go. Biden confronts an ending with Carter's funeral. All right, happening now. That's another thing I'm going to do. I'm going to try to really stay on top of the happening news so that we can cultivate this relationship where we talk about things that are timeless. We talk about things that just don't have a short shelf life, but maybe a long shelf life in terms of marriage and family and maybe long-term stories of culture, going on, education in general, these things that take decades to unfold or years. And then there's also the breaking news, and I'm going to try to say, so if you're there, you can rely. Hopefully you can rely on me. Say, hey guys, look what's breaking. Okay. So happening now is family and friends of former U.S. presidents. That was a scene. I think I'm going to show the video later of all the presidents lined up. It's cool. Honor Jimmy Carter at his state funeral. One thing I did notice about the presidents, man, they get old, man. You don't see them for a while. But what was really interesting, Trump and Obama sitting next to each other. I guess the funeral is going on right now, right? And they were really talking it up and laughing. Who didn't look, who looked really unhappy? Kamala. I mean, boy, oh boy, did she not look good. She looks really upset. Okay, here we go. This is from CNN Politics. It's a pro-Biden article. It's important, guys. We can't just read Fox News or conservative outlets. We got to dig things up that are from the other side. Good opponents. Remember this in sports. You want a good opponent. You want somebody who's at the top of their game. Not because you want to lose, because you want to be better. Yesterday, I was talking to a great coach. He's going to come on. Obi Carrion. He's a great, famous rock climbing coach, kind of an icon in rock climbing. And I think he's going to come on to the show. Obi, if you're listening, get ready. He's a great guy. Intense. Well, anyway, I was talking to Obi. And Obi said, we were talking about, not focusing on winning and in general. And it reminded me of something that we say that it's really not about winning. Of course, you want to win. Okay. Process over outcome, not the win. But winning is, you really want to win. So it's both things at the same time. But it's not, you don't want to be the guy who wins. You want to be great. Or the gal. You want to be great. Because winners are not always great. But those who are great very often win. Okay. We pursue greatness. Okay. Trump, make America great again. I remember in my wrestling room, there were signs on the wall, commitment to excellence. It was also a good sign. Mike Marino put this sign up. He was one of my coaches. And he put up and it said, any fool can criticize, condemn, and complain. And most fools do. That's a good one, right? Think about that. Any fool can criticize, condemn, and complain. And most fools do. So am I criticizing, condemning, and complaining on this show? Yeah, I guess I do. But I only had a caveat. I try to be constructive and breathe life into it and also be open to people changing. So it's not just criticism, condemnation, and complaining. Okay? It's searching for truth, calling it out. Zuckerberg, yeah, this is good. That's disingenuous. That doesn't ring the straight face test. And then we put it together. All right? How do we do that, though? We do that if we're successful at all. When I say me, I say us. If we are successful at all, we have to be clean ourselves as best we can. And cleanliness of mind, body, spirit kind of thing. All right. Biden confronts an ending with Carter's funeral. This is by Edward Isaac Dover. I'm going to say it like that because it sounds when I speak with this French accent, it makes me, all the Long Island accent, New York accent stuff goes away. And you say, oh, Howie smart. Edward Isaac Dover. Okay. It's an 8-minute read, which means it'll take me about 4.5 hours. This was published at 4 a.m. today. There's our Joe Biden. See him? Look at his hair. There's an old man hair. That's the poor guy. I really, at this point, it's a poor guy. Okay. All right, here we go. President Joe Biden speaks. That's the caption. Let me go to the article. CNN. Here we go. Ready? Not a lot of men get to see what their funerals are going to look like. Even fewer get to speak at them. Even fewer get to speak at them, right? I mean, it is kind of interesting, right? President Biden going to give the eulogy for Carter. Biden is no spring chicken. And you get to see what a presidential funeral looks like. And you're speaking at one, and it's almost like you're speaking at your own as you're leaving office, and that casket's there with the flag. It's got to be a profound moment. He is a human. For all the valedictory moments that Joe Biden and his staff lined up for this quiet final weeks in the White House, interesting way to put it. We see how he's sabotaging Trump everywhere. This guy never stops, but I digress. Let me stay focused. Ceremonies awarding medals to supportive celebrities and political friends, receptions and fleeting moments of reflection with the dwindling number of top aides left around. Thursday, today, is unique. Biden will start the day at the National Cathedral, delivering a eulogy for the first presidential candidate he endorsed as a young senator. Standing there, he'll see what fellow leaders do and say when they send off a president who left office under a cloud of disappointments and regrets. Dun, dun, dun. Sorry, Joe, but it is what it is, man. You want to play with the big boys, you gotta take the Results. Results are yours, Joe. And even in the closing days came another. Biden's planned trip to see Pope Francis. So he's going to go see Pope. The like-minded leader of the Catholic faith that has defined Biden's life from his childhood through the masses he has continued to attend every Saturday evening of every week was suddenly scrapped. Days after his trip to Los Angeles to welcome his new great-grandson was redefined by the massive wildfires that broke out while he was there. You know, it's the poetry of life. It's better than any poet can ever write. We spoke about this a few weeks on the show. I was reading a great book by Frederick Faber, and he talks about how the individual life, if fully recorded, every single individual, if it could truly be documented, is better than any epic any writer could ever write, even the most mundane life, because the inner workings and the struggle and the poetry that takes place that even the individual, we don't see. But if we could see our lives from God's perspective, the most mundane, boring life, it's more exciting and more poetic and more symbolic than the greatest epic of Homer or Shakespeare or Dante or whatever. It's true. But then sometimes when somebody's in the public, you see it. You see it. Look at Biden right now. This is like, okay, the guy is ambitious from the second he begins this career. He wants to be president. Okay. Which I don't think is healthy. You don't go into politics wanting to be president. I don't know. I don't think you should. You want to go to make a difference in the role you're in. And if you keep moving toward that direction and you know, like in the old days, you were called. We nominate that guy. We want that guy. Me, I don't want to do it. I'm busy. No, we want you. We need you. Now it's like, I want it. Well, you go point, right? And you're pointing at the voters. I need you. It should be the other way around. You know, early days of the church, bishops were picked. Bishops were picked by the people. Bishop, we want that guy. That guy's a good man. He's holy. He doesn't lie. They grab him and they make him bishop. The same with early days American politics. Politicians didn't campaign. It was unseemly. You didn't do that. It lacked nobility. So now, everybody does everything. All right. But let's look at this right here. The poetry of life. So Biden, he wants to be president. He can never win the nomination. He basically is losing again in 2020 in the primary. But the Obama forces take him because they need somebody, a puppet, right? They get him. So even when he gets what he wants, it wasn't on himself. It was as a pawn in somebody else's game. Obama's. And it's Obama's. It's surely Obama's. And so Biden gets elected, and clearly right from the beginning, the guy's he was never up to the job as far as I'm concerned, but now he's not physically or mentally up to the job. Okay. And we see the unfolding of things. We see the coverage he's fit as a fiddle. And then finally they, admit it. He has a debate performance. Obama throws him out, and we're back to where we are. And Kamala runs and she loses. So now he's leaving office. He's pardoning people on death row. He's thinking about preemptive pardons. He pardons Hunter. It's the tragedy. It's like Shakespeare. I'm not going to pardon my son. Pardons his son, right? He's going to have the best transition with Trump, and then he's sabotaging him with offshore drilling and regulate everything he can do to mess Trump up. All right, Israel, and he's fueling the fire in Ukraine, allowing Ukraine to fire missiles onto Russian soil. All right, so that's the real politic. And then he's just this little nice guy, Joe from Scranton. He's going to go out the way he came in, with nobility. No, there's no honor. There's no honor with this guy. Okay. And even in the closing days came another disappointment and regret. Biden's planned trip to see Pope Francis. Pope Francis was involved in that clemency of the death row inmates, which, by the way, I'm okay with. I really think we're at a society and civilization at a point. I don't think we need to kill people. I don't think we have to use. I don't think capital punishment's necessary. I think we can afford, with all the money we waste, we can afford to keep some people alive in jail forever. And this is not a forgiving them, or of course you have to forgive. God forgives, but it's not about dismissing the horrors of crimes and what families feel from these terrible incidents. It's just about at that point, putting somebody in a cell and then intentionally ending their life. I just have a problem with that. I'm hard. It's hard for me to, because of the redemption. You have to stay consistent. If you're for redemption, then you have to be for redemption. And if that person, it's between them and God. That man who's on death row and God, it's between them, and God will deal with it. But I don't think anyway. So that's one thing with Biden that I don't disagree with. So Pope Francis apparently was involved in that, encouraging him to do that. So he's going to go see Pope Francis. That's canceled. This is what they call Pope Francis, the like-minded leader of the Catholic faith that has defined Biden's life from his childhood through the masses. He has continued to attend every Saturday evening of every week. So he goes to mass. I'm not going to question his faith. I'm not going to. I mean, that's between him and God. And I will question this. Abortion is, and he's been no friend of the infant in the womb. But he'll have to deal with that with God too. Church is clear. Most Christians clear. Orthodox Jew, the core of most religions, you don't end life. Just like you don't end life at death row. If you're not gonna end the life of the death row inmate who's guilty beyond reasonable doubt, why would you get to end the life in the womb? Got to be consistent. So this Catholic thing, hey, not questioning his faith. I'm really not. But I can question what I see. It's clear that taking a life, and life is included, the infant, the embryo, the fetus in the womb. It's life, according to Catholics. And he's a Catholic. That's not negotiable. It's not a negotiable issue. And he's in the transgender thing, all this pro-transgender stuff, not consistent with Catholic faith either, but he goes to church every Sunday. Days after his trip to Los Angeles to welcome his new great-grandson, congratulations, was redefined by the massive wildfires that broke out while he was, it's like biblical. He wants to see the Pope. He goes to see his grandson. The fires in California are horrific. See James Wood's house burned down. So Megyn Kelly is crazy. It's crazy. People's homes it's crazy. Gavin Newsom. All right, I'm going to keep reading. Is seeing all this coverage of Carter being a one-time president impacting his psyche about the last days of his presidency? One former Biden aide told CNN. The man set out to be president from the day he ran for office. Did he accomplish what he set out to accomplish? Is his legacy good enough for him? This is that line. The man set out to be president from the day he ran for office. You see, they don't even think there's a problem with it. This is a culture. Excuse me. Let me take a sip of this. This is a cultural issue that we need to talk about. Political ambition. It's like a spiritual ambition. You don't go into religion or spiritual to become a spiritual leader. You don't go into politics to become the president. You go in to serve. And then if you're elevated through your service by the people, which is God uses the people to call you, well, then you go. And you shouldn't say no. But the man set out to be president from the day. That tells you a lot. And this is a former Biden aide. So apparently he thinks this is a good thing. No, it's not a good thing, man. It's not a good thing. Ambition is something we really have to watch out for. Do I want this show to grow? Sure. Do I want subscribers? Sure, I ask you for them. But at what price? You can't. If you have a product that you think is valuable, you want to share it. It's like, come to my house and eat at my table. But it's not about so that people can say you got a great table. It's about sharing. That's like service. It's about leadership and sharing and serving and making things better, not for your ambition to end up somewhere so people can say, look at you. Like Pharisees and scribes, right? You donate to the temple, not to blow the horn in the street. Look at me giving. What does Jesus say? They've already received their reward. They've received the reward of the trumpet blowing. They don't get the reward of the really great donation is the anonymous donation. I'm always so impressed. And it could be the small. We had a donation. Somebody, with Lori's illness, we had wonderful people cook for us. It's really touching. And in all the stuff that we've dealt with, and it's not like, whatever, it has been a little hard at moments, and we've been strong, I think. Thank all grace, all glory to God. But the moments that really I got a little emotional about Lori's cancer journey is when people, not the doctors, not the diagnosis, when kindness of people really got to me. People, like, they put us on this, people cooking for us. It's humbling. It's not about the money either. It's about, you're busy, you're stressed, and they bring food. And and then some people donated, hey, I guess they didn't have time to cook or want to cook, whatever. And here's some DoorDash, and and it's anonymous. Anonymous. Somebody says here's $200 to anonymous. Isn't that cool? That's guys, we need to contrast that. The anonymous donation, the anonymous act of kindness that you don't get credit for. Why do you do it then? We're such a society, if you do everything for the credit, you do it because it's love. You do it because God's in you and God loves you and God loves others. And the forgiveness and mercy we receive from God, we can never repay. So any act of kindness that we push forward, that we extend outward to our community, we've been paid for it 1,000 times over and can never do enough to pay for it. So we don't need the applause. We don't need the plaque. All right. Biden has long thought about fate, endings, mortality. Now he's 82 years old, the strains of age bearing down on him more clearly than ever. As he prepares to turn the presidency back to the man he felt called into battle for the soul of the country against. You remember that line? He didn't want to run for president last time. But Trump was just so bad, he had to come back. See, that's disingenuous. The guy ran for president like 49 times. He was going to run for president again. This was just a good way to frame it. This guy's so bad. I'm done. Vice president, but I got to come back. I got to do my duty. He knows there are only so many years left ahead. Only so many years with his grandchildren and new great-grandchild in a family that has both benefited and been buffeted from the 50 years he's put them in the political spotlight. Oh, yeah, I know the struggle. Hunter's struggle. Only so many years left to round up donations and work on plans for his presidential library, wherever it ends up, back home in Delaware. Only so many years until the funeral that lowers the flags to half-staff and brings the country to pause, at least for a moment. For years, Biden has spoken about how his father died not long after he retired. If he stops working, he'd die, he was known to say. I'm gonna go. It's a long article. I think we got the point out that Biden is in this very interesting, and I think it's really healthy for us to see the literary, the poetic, and the symbolic nature of how things play out. And Trump's story too, about Trump's story rising and then the election and then down and then the political persecution, if you will, and then the rise and collecting these powerful individuals that the Democrats are so skeptical of. Heaven forbid that people work together. All the talk is such hypocrisy. What's wrong with Zuckerberg? What's wrong with Bezos? They're billionaires. That's the problem. You didn't have a problem when they were donating to your party. Now you got a problem. Now you got a problem that they're billionaires. The big bad B word. We got to be consistent. It is bad if they really are just trying to influence them for their own personal gain, and that's the only reason. But what if it's just really a mixed bag? It's good business. They're evolving with the rest of the nation. Some of us didn't have to evolve as much because we never got so lost. But those that got lost, you're welcome back. Hey, come on. A guy like Zuckerberg he was never in the right spot. He grew up out there. That's his. I don't know where he grew up, but he's been in Silicon Valley in that area so long that it's like only world he probably really knows. And now maybe the light's open. That was my headline for my article, my video. Right? Does he see the light? Put on those Google glasses. You think you're going to look into virtual reality, but maybe he's looking into the light of truth. So this is Biden. All right. I'm gonna stop with this and go on to something else here because I got so many things. I have so many things that I don't even know if I should. Yeah, I'm just gonna rattle through. I'm gonna rattle through. I know I got also Milton Friedman clip. Because yesterday I got some nice guy. People love Milton Friedman. He really is great. So I've been digging. If you got anything, send it to me. Great clips, and it could be anything: coaching, art, literature. But when they're good, man, they're really good. So let me go over here. And the next story we got is, oh man, you know what? This one is like, I don't know much about this. So this is one I'm going to learn about, right? And it's through an opinion piece. Okay. So let me share it. It bothers me. I don't really want to talk about it because it makes me cringe. But here we go. We have to be brave here. Okay. Yahoo News. Let me make sure we're sharing. Yeah, we are. Okay, here we go. This is Yahoo News reporting. They're posting the article by the Telegraph. The Telegraph is one of the news. What do you call it? Like newspapers of record. One of the great big newspapers, UK newspaper. I think it's considered on the conservative part, but it's a main. Like we have the New York Times and the Washington Post and LA Times. They have the Telegraph is one of their big ones. Opinion by Allison Pearson. She's employed by the Telegraph. Elon Musk has ripped the cloak of deceit off one of Britain's most disgusting scandals. This thing is so disturbing. Can I confess to you that I've been avoiding learning about this? It bothers me. It makes me. Some things are so ugly, But we got it. We need to be. We need to be on the top of the news, right? That's why we're here. All right, Elon Musk has ripped the cloak of deceit off of Britain's most disgusting scandals. From Tuesday, January 7th. Here we go. Once upon a time, this is by let me repeat her name again and get her story right. Allison Pearson. Once upon a time. Isn't it interesting that she begins with once upon a time with our theme of seeing the literary value in the tale? It's cool. Once upon a time, there was a good and fair country, and people who lived in countries that were neither good nor fair traveled to that land and made it their home because they knew it to be kind. But some men who made that land their home brought the values of countries that were neither kind nor fair with them. Such men hated the female children they found in the good and fair country. The girls were white, but not chaste. They were dirty unbelievers who went about unaccompanied as if they were boys. They disgusted the men, and they tempted them, which made them hate the female children even more. The monsters, for that is what the men became over time, caused savage harm to thousands of girls. So many that no one is yet sure of the number and may never be, for some were lost or killed. And the monsters drugged and bribed them. They made them sex slaves, branded the girls' flesh with their initials. It's just so hard to even read. Ramming large implements into their tiny bodies, the better to accommodate for men. This may be hard to comprehend, dear reader. It is. It is hard to comprehend. But the people of that enlightened land did not protect their daughters. I'm sorry to say they abandoned them to their fate. The police, whose duty it was to look after the most vulnerable, either arrested the girls, dismissed their pleas for help, or left them with their tormentors. For that famously kind and decent land had fallen under a strange enchantment, which was called multiculturalism. Let me comment here. So Victor Davis Hanson, who we speak about a lot, the great classicist of the Hoover Institute, and talks about the cultural revolution that the progressives were trying to conduct in our nation. Cultural, it's kind of like a Mao cultural revolution. And all that language, all that story, all that narrative that we talk about, which is true, this is part of it. Philosophically, it's important. Philosophy is so important. Art is so important because you know what happens before trends, in that you see in the street. A lot of times, the cultural will project it first, and it's pop culture, right? Right before it ends up on the street, it's pop culture. We'll start to do it, and then it goes onto the street. So the pop culture starts with the transgender, and then the transgender ends up in our community. And before, and I'm just using transgender as an example, but it could be any issue. But before pop culture, it's usually some of the artists, the more classical artists, more highbrow, the highbrow, a little bit off of not pop culture. They're talking about it. And but before art movements, many times they're a philosophical movement and understanding the brain and how do we conceptualize our existence. Okay. Multiculturalism has been around for a long time. And it's the philosophy that I'm just summing up in general. If you want to debate this summary, then go ahead and comment and we'll talk. But basically, it's saying that you have no right to judge another culture. That's it. You know how you say as individuals, who are you to judge me? Who are you? Like, I can do whatever. And that argument we know is on an individual level falls away. I mean, yeah, I guess God only judges. But we can see if you're doing something obvious that's harmful, like you're walking down the street and violently attacking people. Well, then are we judging you by calling it out or attempting to stop it or getting the police or getting involved? I mean, it's not a judgment. There's an action. Yes, I guess you have a judgment against that act, but there's a universal acceptance that action is inappropriate. So therefore, it's the judgment part is canceled out. It's justified. Your action is justified to interfere because there's a societal norm that's saying that's inappropriate. It has to stop. It's damaging. Okay. Now you deciding to wear this kind of shirt or that kind of shirt, that's not for me to judge, and it's not damaging. Okay. So we have basic acts like the 10 Commandments. Don't do these things. Okay. Laws. You can't steal my car. You can't take my car. Okay. All right. Now that's with individuals. We used to, who are you to judge me? And yet we can judge each other. We can. There are certain actions we do judge all the time. In fact, we have people called judges. In fact, you have so many attorneys out there, these big giant signs all the time. Everybody drive these ridiculous signs for slip and fall attorneys. I mean, ridiculous. Attorneys dressed like Santa Claus. I'm like, my wife's like, would you ever call that guy to represent you? I don't even understand. So we do judge. Now, culturally, the philosophy of multiculturalism is like an extension of that. Who are you to judge me? But based on society to society or culture to culture. So who are we as Western American culture to judge Italian culture or culture of Argentina or, of course, then the ones that are, or China or Asian or Korean, whatever, Middle Eastern. And yes, to some degree, we don't understand. Maybe we don't understand and they don't understand us. But to what degree? Is there ever a degree where you say, yes, I can judge them. They are that culture. Let's just use an example, be good philosophers and we don't have to, let's create one. So we don't have to point at one. Culture W over there, whatever it is, we just call it W, is killing every third person. Just, I don't know, they pass a law and they're going to kill every third person with the last name that begins with H or something. Okay, I mean, You'd say, well, why would you pick a ridiculous example to prove the point? That would be wrong. Now, can you say, well, that's not my culture, it's not wrong? That's what multiculturalism leads to. Extreme multiculturalism. Like, we can't judge them. That's their culture. But no, but that's not the case. As humans, that's why the core religion is important. There is a respect for life and dignity, and you can't steal someone's dignity. You can't take their life. You can't harm their body. You can't touch their body without their permission. You can't. All these things. There's a universal quality. So multiculturalism attacks that universal belief in these values, core values. So I can't judge that society. And that's what happened here. Okay. You have people coming in and bringing in evil, but we can't judge it. Who am I to judge? I'm not from that society. Dangerous. This has been going on. I mean, I was studying this is our 90s, right? Early 90s, studying my philosophy in university. And, this was it takes time. Now we're seeing the grotesque manifestations of it. Victor Davis Hanson talks about it. Here we go. For that famously kind and decent land had fallen under a strange enchantment, which was called multiculturalism. It said that no matter how wicked or cruel the men were to the children, you must never speak of it. The dark spell, and what a powerful spell it was, enough to vanquish justice and compassion, caused any who dared to say that Pakistani Muslim men were targeting white girls to become the bad people. Because all cultures are equal, you see, even ones that don't believe in equality or which agree that girls who aren't virgins are whores and deserve to be punished. This is harsh language, hard to read, but it's in the Telegraph. Okay. Written by one of their, established journalists. But look at that line. It's just what I said. And honestly, remember I said I read this with you? This is why it's all so, the journey, this is ugly, what we're talking about, but the journey is beautiful because we can't be afraid. And we see how the multiculturalism, what I just explained, it's right there. She sums it up. Because all cultures are equal. She's speaking tongue in cheek, right? Mocking the multiculturalism. Because all cultures are equal, you see, even ones that don't believe in equality or which agree that girls who aren't virgins are whores and deserve to be punished. It's terrible. It's disgusting. But that's where that leads. That's where that cultural revolution leads. You can't judge. You can't judge that guy who wants to play basketball for the females. Well, you can't. Who are you to judge him? He has his own mini culture. And that's where the multiculturalism leads. First, you can't judge this society against that society, and then you keep getting smaller and smaller, where one individual can act any way he wants or she wants, and we can never judge them because they're their own mini culture. It's anarchy. It's the definition of anarchy. And that's what really takes your breath away, like really how close we were to really tipping. The 2024 election was a monumental event in not just U.S. history, but in world history. And let's see how it goes. We have to stay diligent. Okay. All right. And those who struggled against the powerful spell that stifled their countrymen were called racist. And there it is. And to be racist or bigoted or far right, even worse, was to be far more hateful than any hatred inflicted on female children. Or so the people of the good and fair country were told by their leaders. And there it is, the race card. You guilt and shame. You guilt and shame and classify and categorize. You're far right. Trump's Hitler, right? They call Trump Hitler. For the people who are just trying to call out what has been established for thousands of years. There's a decency in human beings that should, independent of culture, you can't violate. The human dignity, and the respect for the body, especially, and your private property. Those are private property, the body, and personal dignity. Those three things you can't step on. You can't trespass. Forgive me my trespasses as I forgive those who trespass again. The trespass, to step onto my dignity or touch me physically, right? Or take my stuff. Or harm those in my circle, right? Do not covet thy neighbor's wife. I mean, this is all right there. Do you see how important the Greco-Roman, Judeo-Christian um, enlightenment thinking is? And the Constitution, freedom of speech, it all ties together. On and on and on and on. If you don't like the repetition, I guess you got to unsubscribe because I'm just going to keep doing it. And we tie it together, and it makes the stories grand. It makes our lives grand. It makes us important actors in this great tragedy that has I'd say tragedy in the dramatic sense because it has a beautiful ending. We know what the ending is. The ending is success, and we win. Okay, we go into battle knowing we won. Because if you have truth on your side, nothing. If you're on truth's side, not truth on your side, because it doesn't work for us. We work for truth. If you go into battle, you know, symbolic battle, right? If you go into the arena of ideas, intellectual battle, and you're on the side of truth, you never lose. You can never lose. It's like an athlete who really, really trains hard, really prepares, really shows up, does, if it's possible, does 99.9% everything right, and really works and really goes for it and loses the game. They didn't lose. Yeah, they lost the score, but they didn't lose. It's the difference of what we said in the beginning. Someone who wins or someone who's great. You want to be great. And when the monsters swore at the children whom they were raping, saying, I'm not going to repeat it, saying nasty things to them, well, that wasn't at all racist because multiculturalism and the BBC, British Broadcasting Company, say it cannot be so. A few brave women, Julie, Ann, Maggie, Sarah, who woke from the enchantment and warned young girls were in danger from British Pakistani men who were banished and forced to apologize for being reckless in my choice of words, or they lost their seat in the shadow cabinet. And the evil, a vast, superating evil, such as the land had not known for 1,000 years, continued to blight that good and fair country. The authorities colluded to make sure the hatred must never speak its name, and the girls carried their lonely torment within them. And their rapists got access to the babies they had impregnated them with. Oh, yes, they did. So strong was the multicultural enchantment. It made people surrender the values they had been born to. This is really a gross story. And the monsters were not banished from their good and fair country. Not one of them sent back to countries that were neither good nor fair, in case their human rights were breached. Then one day, the richest man in the whole world came along and broke the dark spell. Elon had read court transcripts telling what those monsters had done to the female children. And he could not believe such unfathomable depravity had taken root in the good and fair country. Because of his great wealth, Elon could not be intimidated into agreeing that thousands of white girls should have been used as a peace offering to placate the gods of multiculturalism. His righteous wrath shamed the cowardly leaders of the land, and in their panic, they cried, "Misinformation!" But the people were having none of it, for they were awake now, and they saw what horrors the brutes had been allowed to get away with. As the wicked enchantment lifted, the benevolent myth of multiculturalism was unmasked. The country isn't interested in the whole mask thing. We had to wear masks. At the peak of all the nonsense, it was COVID and the mask, like the peak, and we thought we were really losing our minds. Like, what is going on? Our whole world's disappearing. Everything we believe in is crumbling. Even the word unmask, right? You unmask, then you look at the truth. The symbolism, again, the symbolism, the poetry of life, the fact that we all had to put masks on our face and cover up our faces. The country slowly but surely recovered its senses and demanded the guilty be found and punished, even unto the highest in the land. As this is a fairy tale, I guess it would be nice to say they all lived happily ever after. And yet, after it was agreed all the monsters would be deported to great national rejoicing, there was a terrible stain on the good and fair country's history that would never quite be expunged. It stood shame before the civilized world, and in the national memory lodged forever, it seemed, were the anguished, tortured, frightened cries of those who were allowed to suffer and die to avoid stirring up racial hatred. The girls, the girls, the girls. It's a really long story. And it goes on, and she talks about this in deeper. Okay. So this is let me go up to the top and give you the name again. Okay. So that, as I said many times, if this show leads you to read great articles and go a little deeper than we can in one particular podcast, then that's awesome. Okay. So it's from the Telegraph. It's an opinion piece. It's from January 7th, 2025. Elon Musk has ripped the cloak of deceit off one of Britain's most disgusting scandals. And it's by Alison Pearson. All right. So I thank you. I thank you for being with me to go through this, because it was, like I said, I found myself avoiding it. And somebody I know asked me, if I was going to talk about it. And I said, I guess I got to look into this. And even the way she frames that, as this kind of tale approach, this good and fair land, once upon a time, and then the ending, it's not over yet, but the last part I wrote about, and then everybody lived happily ever after. But of course, that's not the case. So let's see how this unfolds. Be aware of it, and God, pray for those the victims, right? True victims, and for the souls, of those who covered this up. Just shame, terror, terrible. Okay, next story. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to talk about, the Federalist is one of those great papers. And the editor-in-chief of the Federalist is Molly Hemingway. Hemingway, like the writer Hemingway. Excuse me. And the Federalist editor-in-chief is Molly Hemingway, and she was on Bret Baier, who's really becoming one of the great journalists out there. So let's listen to her. She talks about the high expectations for the Congressional. So we're shifting gears back to Congress. We talked about Mike Johnson the other day and what they need to do. Trump wants to put everything together and push it through quick. And Molly Hemingway is a great, very intuitive, really has her finger on what's going on the deeper layers of politics in Washington. So let's listen to what she says to Bret Baier. Let me share this with you. Okay. Share screen. Okay, Molly Hemingway, share. All right, and there we go. And I'm going to make it big. And let me make sure, guys, that you're with me. I always do this. Make sure. All right, let's hear it. This is Molly Hemingway with Bret Baier talking about Congress and how they're going to approach Trump's agenda.
Actually, Congress needs to be heavily involved in making this happen. You look back at the first Trump administration was the last time you saw this unified government in the first 2 years. And I think it was a big disappointment for Americans how little got done. And so I think there's less patience and much higher expectations that some of the things that they voted on will be accomplished, whether that's the border, the continuing tax cuts, or other issues that are part of the Trump mandate.
Yeah, all right. So what I'm going to do is that's just one of these news roundup, I'm calling them. Oops. Excuse me 1 second. I got something planned. All right. Hold on. Okay. Oh, we had a technical difficulty there. Okay. So Molly, I like her. I like Mrs. Hemingway. Miss Hemingway. I don't know. Miss Molly Hemingway. Because she has a way of pay attention to when you see her. That's my opinion. Pay attention to what she says, because she's always because you're going to hear a lot of talk, okay, about Trump's trying to do too much too fast, and we got to break things down. We got to go slow. And Mike Johnson, who's saying the right things, and I like Mike Johnson, but he finished his little thing the other day. He's talking about we got to do the wall and we got a debt limit and all this, and keep taxes though. He said, but remember, I have the smallest majority. We have to watch them. You can't let them. Look at Musk. Is Musk using excuses? Is he ever looking for excuses? Like Mike Johnson had that moment. Remember, I got the smallest majority. Just in case I can't get it done, don't get mad at me. No. You don't win by doing that. That's the Republicans have this never-ending problem where they're always, but maybe not. We're only one of three. You have the House, you have the Senate, and you have the White House. That's what Trump had last time. And they're so afraid. They're so deep in the swamp, even the ones who are saying they want to break up the swamp. So this is that's I'm going to leave it at that with Molly Hemingway. And I listened to her and I'm like, you know what, that's important for us to share and understand what she's saying and be reminded by it, that the reason this is going to be pushed hard and you're going to hear a lot of against it. There's always, Democrats in Washington always have a strategy. One of their strategies I pointed out a while ago was that they kept praising, kept saying Musk is really in charge because they want Trump to get mad. That they want Trump to read one too many headlines that Musk is actually in charge, so that his ego gets bruised and they actually do fight because they're so afraid of Musk. This is another one. Trump's going too fast. He's going too fast. He's too wild. He's too reckless. We got to go slow. You know what go slow means? It doesn't get done. You have the House of Representatives. You have the Senate. You have the White House. Go as fast as you can. Put it all together. Put it through. And Mike Johnson. Remember, I only have a slight majority. No. You're either the starting quarterback or you're not. Think about what I'm saying. Stop. You have many quarterbacks that you can put in. You got the big game. You got the Super Bowl. This is the big leagues, dude. It doesn't get any bigger politically. You got the biggest game coming up. You got 6-7 quarterbacks you could put in. You got your quarterback. You put him in there. And I'm going to do it. I'm going to follow that. And we're going to run the ball. We're going to throw short. We're going to throw long. We're going to keep the pressure. We're going to be, no huddle offense. We're going to score points. Rah. And then the quarterback right before he goes out says, yeah, but remember, I'm only 6'2", not 6'4". And sometimes I can't see over the line. Okay, bye. It's weakness. Don't remind people of your bads. There's no bad posture situation. There's only progress. There's only going forward. I love these shows about coaching. There's the Coach's Playbook, I think it's called, on Netflix. Doc Rivers, great one. Sports flush out so much. I want to start bringing on coaches on the show for a coaching segment all the time. Maybe daily if I can do it, where we talk to coaches about athletics and about life and about philosophy and apply it to all things, because it's so clear when you see it. Don't send a quarterback in who is putting out a little disclaimer. What kind of rah-rah talk is it if you have a disclaimer? It's not a rah-rah talk. All right, next, another Molly Hemingway. This is with, she's talking about Liz Cheney. Okay, Liz Cheney is interesting this morning. So I'm watching the funeral. I'm watching them, the former president, sit down for Jimmy Carter's funeral. And you're watching them line up. I find it fascinating to see them all there. You haven't seen them in a while. Bush looks old and Bush is joking around. And it's interesting, the personalities. You can't hear what they're saying. You see them from a distance. But people never change, man. In some ways, right? Of course, we talk about they can change in fundamental ways and redemption. But like the personality, it's so funny. Bush is Bush. Carter's Clinton's Clinton. Obama, very dignified. And then it's funny that Obama is right next to Trump, right? Right next to Trump, talking to Trump. He's got his ear. They're laughing. And then you got the vice presidents behind you, right? You got Quayle and Gore and who was the other guy? Pence, Mike Pence. But no Dick Cheney. No Dick Cheney. I don't know, man. I don't know. I guess he's pretty elderly, but there's no Dick Cheney there. So Liz Cheney, his daughter, who was the every Democrat's favorite Republican, right? Who's got herself in some trouble, So basically, and then Biden gives her an award, which is the telltale sign that she probably did something wrong. Because he's trying to give her cover. He's trying to give her political cover. I'm giving awards to this woman, and then you're going to go after her. But let's see what so listen what Molly Hemingway. She's very sharp. What she says about this. And hold on 1 second. Let me bring it up to you. Okay, share. And Molly Hemingway of the Federalist. Okay. All right. And let me make it full screen. And here we go.
Well, this award to Liz Cheney really is inappropriate. This is a woman who was hand-selected by Nancy Pelosi to run a committee that was extremely one-sided. Liz Cheney, in the course of running this committee to supposedly investigate the January 6th incident at the Capitol, she obstructed justice. She witness tampered. We have lots of reason to believe she witness tampered with Cassidy Hutchinson getting involved in that woman's actual legal representation. She hid evidence that exonerated Donald Trump. I mean, one of the big things that Liz Cheney had said was that Donald Trump had not, in fact, sought a presence at the Capitol to protect people who were protesting. And she had evidence when she conducted her interviews that the deputy chief of staff said he personally heard Donald Trump say that he thought 10,000 National Guard troops would be good, that he heard the chief of staff talk to the DC mayor, encouraging her to request those troops. But she hid that evidence, completely failed to release that evidence until, and it only came out after Republicans took control of the House. This is not someone that you should be giving an award to, someone who's witness tampering, obstructing justice, and the like.
All right, before she continues, again, so many stories. I mean, how much can you go into? This is a big one, though. Okay, this is one of the people that Biden was talking about a preemptive pardon. Preemptive pardon for what? And then you had other people pushing back and say you can't give pardons. You can't give pardons to people who haven't been charged with anything. Okay, this is not what the presidential pardon's for. So I mean, Liz Cheney, we got to follow this. We should follow. Okay, because the whole January 6th thing is really talking about this drama, the American drama of the last 40 years, the progressive movement and the multiculturalism and the cultural revolution that Victor Davis Hanson talks about. It's all this, because then it leads to deceit and these are big charges. These are big claims against Liz Cheney. I mean, she deserves her day in court as well, but that's the point. She shouldn't be pardoned for something she's not charged with. Let's see what happens. But Biden, this is so political, so typical. He gives her an award. They do this all the time. They do this kind of stuff where, and it's almost like you could read. It's not even a tea leaves. It's pretty obvious once you watch it. In fact, when somebody like this receives an award, you have to say, well, what did they do? Why are they given political cover? All right, this is interesting now. What she says. Why it's happening? Here we go.
So do you think she broke the law? Because remember, in the last few weeks, there was some conversation about Biden issuing her a pardon. Is a pardon warranted?
Well, I think the pardon is being sought by people who know what she did because she is in legal jeopardy. At the very least, she should be investigated for this. But I also think it's just so interesting how much Democrats, I mean, the reason why she's getting the award is because she helped Democrats campaign. They thought that she was helpful. But you might remember that the Kamala Harris campaign had Liz Cheney out on the road. That was their closing message. If you vote for Kamala Harris, you're going to have people like Liz Cheney handling our foreign policy. And polling showed that that was actually a net negative with people on that campaign. So Liz Cheney, as awful as her behavior has been in these last few years, she did give Republicans this gift of taking her very unpopular, politically toxic neocon interventionism and moving it from the Republican Party now firmly into the Democrat Party. And so for that, Republicans can be thankful.
I mean, it's an interesting point, because she just came out and endorsed Harris, and Harris used her Is a good point as a closing argument. That's who she had out there. The good part of that is that that part of the Republican Party, in a sense, the never Trumper party, the neocon, is basically just not part of the Republican Party anymore. They just been like taken out, and we got Kennedy in a sense, and they get the neocon never Trumper. You know, they just flat out become Democrats. I mean, Liz Cheney has not. I don't believe she's left the Republican Party. I could be wrong, but that's an interesting way to put it. It just kind of flushed it, put the lights on, and made the insects run for cover, or at least run for a protective cover. In this case, the Democrats and Biden, and the award is what's represented there. And that's just, we might as well just finish it up. It's only got like 50 seconds left. Let's see what else she has to say.
Unbelievable. And to also note the highest civilian award going to Hillary Clinton and George Soros, Democrats' biggest donor, Molly.
Well, yeah, again, George Soros is getting this award for how he has helped Democrats with their political activity. But did the Biden administration at all think about this? One of Soros's biggest things that he's done in recent years was putting in these prosecutors who are very soft on crime, who are unwilling to go after people who commit crimes, even as they go after people who don't commit crimes. And that has created a horrific situation in cities like New York, where people are prosecuted for protecting people on trains and then not charged for various crimes. To give an award for that shows just a lack of consideration for what it's like to live in one of these cities with a Soros prosecutor and to see crime skyrocket. It's pretty shocking.
I want to get.
All right. So listen, what I'm going to do is I want to show you something on Real Clear Politics here. Let me stop sharing. So she brings up Soros, because Hillary Clinton and Soros both get an award from Biden, and Soros, you know, for his help of getting Democrats elected. Now Musk is this story's been out a while, you know, if you follow it, but Musk is talking about like the role of Soros getting these DAs, helping these DAs get elected, who basically were soft on crime, extremely soft on crime. And that's how you have these inner cities just are a mess. And the New York subway story, the Daniel Penny story was really relevant because it's a cultural issue. Can you stand up and help somebody? In this case, he didn't intend to kill the guy. The guy needed to be restrained. He actually could be seen as a hero, and yet he's charged for homicide. So, and that's these type of brag of New York, these kind of district attorneys. I mean, Soros has been doing this for a long time. In fact, today, let me share here with you the Real Clear Politics page again, because there's another story about Soros. I mean, Soros, he really has his fingers, his tentacles everywhere. Let me find it here. Yeah, how Soros-backed operatives took over roles at Wikipedia. See that? Let's open it for a second. Okay. How Soros-backed operatives took over key roles at Wikipedia. Here it is. See, that's why, you know, watch the show. We go from one thing to all connected. Stay right on top of everything. Soros-linked operatives have spent the past 8 years embedding themselves in top roles at Wikimedia Foundation and transforming the site into a tool for radical social engineering. Here we go. Social justice, social engineering, public opinion, mold. You are part of a project. That's what they see. We, the people, are just part of something to be molded and shaped and controlled. Not we, the people. The government serves us, right? Of the people, for the people, right? No, that's not the way they operate. When they think of Wikipedia, right? How many people, you know, I still use it, right? How many people go to Wikipedia for quick information on something? I don't use it. I really do avoid using it. But we do know that it's there and it's the first thing that pops up. So many times, like if we quickly search and we still, unless we really, really, really intentionally don't, we see it. Even if we intentionally go to the next one, we a lot of times see the entry because Google has it come up. You know, the search engine brings it right to the top. So Wikipedia and control, it's scary. This is similar to AI, right? Because AI is a bigger form of Wikipedia, right? So Wikipedia, encyclopedia, right? online, but now if you're controlling that, information, well, then, then the people are given a perspective that's not based on truth, but based on ideology of whoever is the editor or manipulator of that information. And that's why AI is so scary, because it's one thing if this computer is really taking all the data and then giving you, an objective. But as Musk says, like, Chat GPT, if he doesn't trust him, well, then what do you end up with? You end up with a giant AI mind, computer mind, that has an agenda, right? AI shouldn't have an agenda. Wikipedia shouldn't have an agenda. Well, now we find out, well, this is according to the story. This is from PW Technology, Pirate Wires publication. Okay, piratewires.com. How Soros-backed operatives took over key roles at Wikipedia. I'm not going to read it, but so you see how Molly Hemingway brings him up concerning getting an award from Biden. Everybody getting an award for Biden is part of this cultural revolution in a way, right? I don't know about everybody, but these people, Hillary, Soros, Liz Cheney, right? And he's by praising them, he's preemptively, it's a preemptive pardon in terms of public opinion. So they're about to get criticized, so I'll praise them first, so that your criticism that comes post my award doesn't have as much merit, doesn't carry as much weight. That's actually the way you look at it. It's a preemptive. In his eyes, by a preemptive correction to what the public is going to. When the truth comes out, the public's opinion will change, and in order to weaken the effect of that change, he's given an award out. So this guy's not even great. He's extra great. I'm giving an award, knowing that when the information comes out, that award, the weight of it will kind of to help the damage to their reputations. Sneaky, very sneaky. All right, one more. Let's keep going. You know what I should do? What I should do is I'm going to bring up a little clip here. All right. So we have, we still have to talk about the wildfires, and we still have to talk. I got a great culture one to come up, and it's nice. You're going to like it, especially if you're an old fogey like me. And it's away from politics, more into the heart and soul of culture. I got another great one about reporting. But what I think I'll do now is I'm going to bring up. Yeah, you guys really like the Milton Friedman clip I played the other day. So I found another. This one might be even better. So I'm going to play that. That'll give me a time to take a little break. Okay, it's like 3 minutes long, but it's worth it. It's worth 20 minutes. So I'm going to give some heads up on who it's from. It's Milton Friedman on the Donahue show. You remember Phil Donahue? Phil Donahue was one of the first talk show guys. Again, growing up in the 80s, right? 70s, 80s, Phil Donahue, like without Oprah even says, I think without Phil Donahue, she never would have been. He was like, he brought on different sides and they talked about issues, and not a political thing, more like an Oprah style show. All right. Dr. Phil. So this is Phil Donahue. Okay. Now, Milton Friedman is on the show. This is on YouTube, and it's by Econtastic. Econtastic is the channel, and I'm going to show it. And it's really, you watch Phil Donahue ask him a question, and you see where Phil Donahue is coming from, and then Friedman it's almost embarrassing how badly he destroys him. Okay, so let me share this. And I'll be back in a second once I get going with it, okay? Here we go. All right. And all right, so I'm going to play it. I'm going to make it full screen, and we'll go.
When you sit in your study and throughout your career as a professor, you've met students, and you've probably dealt with every kind of question, stupid through. I guess I want to know whether you've ever been tempted to become politically revolutionary. Here's my question. When you see around the globe the maldistribution of wealth, the desperate plight of millions of people in underdeveloped countries, when you see so few haves and so many have-nots, when you see the greed and the concentration of power within, did you ever have a moment of doubt about capitalism and whether greed's a good idea to run on?
Well, first of all, tell me, is there some society you know that doesn't run on greed? You think Russia doesn't run on greed? You think China doesn't run on greed? What is greed? Of course, none of us are greedy. It's only the other fellow who's greedy. The world runs on individuals pursuing their separate interests. The great achievements of civilization have not come from government bureaus. Einstein didn't construct his theory under order from a bureaucrat. Henry Ford didn't revolutionize the automobile industry that way. In the only cases in which the masses have escaped from the kind of grinding poverty you're talking about, the only cases in recorded history are where they have had capitalism and largely free trade. If you want to know where the masses are worst off, it's exactly in the kinds of societies that depart from that. So that the record of history is absolutely crystal clear that there is no alternative way so far discovered of improving the lot of the ordinary people that can hold a candle to the productive activities that are unleashed by a free enterprise system.
But it seems to reward not virtue as much as ability to manipulate the system.
And what does reward virtue? You think a communist commissar rewards virtue? You think a Hitler rewards virtue? You think, excuse me, if you'll pardon me, do you think American presidents reward virtue? Do they choose their appointees on the basis of the virtue of the people appointed or on the basis of their political clout? Is it really true that political self-interest is nobler somehow than economic self-interest? You know, I think you're taking a lot of things for granted. And just tell me where in the world you find these angels who are going to organize society for us.
Well,
I don't even trust you to do that. Let alone myself.
One of the nice things about having your own show is when you're able to say at any time, we'll be back in just a moment.
All right. Huh? So there we go. Let me stop sharing that. I mean, how good is Milton Friedman? When you have somebody that is just he's such a master of the material. Yeah, it's just that it's what a great professor does, right? And it's why we need great professors. What I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly talk about. You know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to talk about the wildfires. We know about the wildfires and just how crazy. And again, what happens in California, and we know the story of the chief that was the new chief, female chief, and her main agenda was DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, in terms of the staff. And now you having the firefighters are wonderful themselves, but their leaders, the head, is not allowing them. They're not hired for the right reason. These people who run these agencies or departments are not. They're too focused on all this cultural revolution stuff. In California, man, the fire is really, when you see something burning, it's just right in your face. And people's homes burning down is just terrible. Schools. All right. But what I'm going to talk about is a really good segue, because we've really been heavily focused on politics this morning. And in line with everything, always, is more of I think something that hit me. I saw it. I didn't read much of it. So, but this is our material here, right? Now, if you're like me, and you're getting there, you see a difference in how the generation. Now, every generation looks back and says, "Well, that generation not like mine," and it's true. But we see, some of the, the younger generations, the way they handle themselves, their inability to communicate, to handle stress. We talk about the colleges closing down classes after the election, and cookies and milk and coloring books and Legos, and they're so frail. We go to snowflakes, and I also see like in the terms of, I got to tell you something that bothers me. Like, guys, you take off your hat. You don't wear a hat inside a building. You definitely don't wear a hat while you sit at a table eating. How many guys I see wearing hats? Oh, man, my mother would have. You don't wear a hat when you eat. You don't do it. Now, that's just more like an etiquette thing. But that brings me to here. So let me share with you. This is a good one. Stay with me. You're going to like it. All right, here we go. And boom. Generation Z. Okay. Let me make sure we're sharing. Yeah, we got it. All right. All right. This is from Salon. Okay. Salon.com. And let's see. Generation Z needs office etiquette skills, hiring managers say. Cultural issue. They don't know how to function in an office. It's amazing. Published January 6, 2025 by Zina Kumak. The top complaints about younger workers include not making eye contact and dressing inappropriately. You got to look at people. I just said this to my dad. I always talk about personal life. I just said this to my daughter the other day. I noticed she was talking to someone. I said, you got to make sure your eyes, you look at somebody in the eyes. Look at them. Yeah, I understand you're younger. Well, no, you look at them. I have a friend, a colonel in the Air Force, retired colonel in the Air Force. He's a great guy. He's going to come on the show, help us out. And, he says that to his son, when his son's talking to me. He's a great kid, wonderful kid. But he's a boy. He's learning, right? Look at him. Look at him when you talk. He reminds him. Like, they don't know. And the human instinct is to look away because we're afraid, we're timid, we're smaller than, you're a kid, you're smaller than the people. I remember going to my grandma Hain's house, my dad's mom. She was a wonderful little Jewish lady. And she used to wear we called it a schmuck, like a house coat. And she would cook, and it was a big family. My father had a big family, and but it was a humble, working class environment, And my grandfather, Grandpa Hain, was a roofer, and he would eat, and we'd all eat, and my grandmother wouldn't eat; she would just serve, And he was a water, and she'd come with water. So now that part was that I don't like that. I just remember sharing my memories. But I remember going to this part is in line with what I'm talking about. I remember going to Grandma Hain's house, okay, and I had quite a few uncles. And before we ran around with our cousins and played, you know what we had to do? Me and my three brothers, four of us. We went into that house or in the backyard, and we found each uncle, and we shook their hands. And if they were in conversation with someone, we waited. Oh, hi, Uncle Gary. Hi, Uncle Ed. Shake hands. And you're free to go. This stuff matters. This is the fabric that holds us society together. You got to have these things. You got to look somebody in the eye. You have to shake hands. You know what I do to this? You stand up when you greet somebody. I have a hat on. I wear a hat outside all the time because my head, I got to protect the bald head. I take the hat off. I see someone, I take my hat off. I shake their hand. I don't know. It's just in me. I think it matters, man. This little stuff matters. And then we see a whole generation like this. Let's see what the top complaints about younger workers include: not making eye contact and dressing inappropriately. All right, here we go. Young woman taking a selfie with coworkers at office. Yeah, look at that. That does represent it, doesn't it? Right? Peace sign. Hey, selfie. You got the coffee cup. All right. Gen Z, people born between 1997 and 2012. Okay, it's a big window. Yeah, okay. Is graduating from college and flooding the labor market, bringing a fresh outlook and bold ideas to traditional workplaces, and not everyone appreciates it. Nearly half, 45% of hiring managers say Gen Z is the most challenging generation to work with, according to a 2024 survey by Resume Genius. In another survey, 3 in 10 managers told resumebuilder.com they try to avoid hiring Gen Z workers, saying they lack traditional workplace etiquette. About 18% of managers have considered quitting because of the stress of managing them, or according to a November 5 report from online education magazine intelligent.com. You know, I believe those numbers because I see it in my own life. I bet you do too. We have cousins or nephews or nieces or, people in the neighborhood or, the gym, whatever. And they say things and you're like, what are you talking about? Like, what planet are you on? How disconnected are you from the universe that we live in? It's this tremendously entitled, spoiled, infected by the Cultural Revolution that Victor Davis Hanson talks about, the multiculturalism, and they're lazy for the most part. They're very lazy and weak and timid. I see it in the athletic world. I mean, they don't know what hard work is. I'm like, think this hurts, that hurts, that. Go, work, get up, get out there. You got pain? Who doesn't have pain? I'm not saying you should do sport with the injury. My point is aches, normal stuff. You're tired. Things didn't go the right way. Somebody made fun of you a little bit. I'm not talking about serious bullying and, I mean like life, normal social stuff, normal tired stuff. Hold the door for a woman. Carry the groceries from your neighbors. Oh, go help. Right? Basic stuff. Take your hat off. Shake hands. Look people in the eye. Respect your elders. Like we all have, we're younger. We all knew everything, of course. But come on. You know that at least I all my friends, man. You called Mr. My friend, if my friend's last name was Jones, it would be Mr. Jones, Mrs. Jones. You said you can call him, hey, Susie. Respect. It adds up. And then you have a whole generation. And then it starts the entitlement. They know everything. We're outdated. And on top of that, they're entitled. They're entitled to be the boss right away. Their top complaints, about 57% said Gen Zers have trouble making eye contact and dress inappropriately during job interviews. It's a crazy. Where are the parents? I'm sorry, but let's call it right now. That's right into where are the parents? Dress inappropriately? Come on, dude. Eye contact? Yeah, I know. I see it. And but you have to get on it. And maybe you don't solve it one day, but you say, hey. Look at them when you speak. Hey, you don't wear that to church. I mean, I'm glad you go to church at all, but if you go to church, you don't wear that. Okay? Have some dignity. Here we go. Almost 20% used inappropriate language during the interview. Oh, goodness. About 16%, it reminds me of when people interview their little kids for preschool. And they're going to go to this fancy academy and the kid's 3 years old and the kid crawls under the desk and it's biting the leg of the principal. It's and the parents are mortified, but he's 3. That's what it reminds me of. These 20-something-year-olds go to interviews and they're cursing, they're inappropriate. They're asking about, if they have I know somebody that was working for a big financial company and they were and the person wanted to know if they had vegan meals. That's what they're asking at the interview for a major financial company. Yeah, it's crazy. About 20% used inappropriate language during the interview. About 16% had inappropriate setting during virtual interviews. Okay, during virtual interviews had inappropriate settings. And 13%, that's a whole nother dynamic now, right? What setting? Where are you? And 13% refused to turn their cameras on during virtual interview. My goodness, they refused to turn the camera. About 9% brought a parent to the job interview, according to survey respondents. I don't believe that. No, they brought a parent to the job interview. This is adults. No, that's actually, I think I would That would be funny. I think I would appreciate that. Hey, mom. Hey, dad. So what do you think? Okay. The first two issues could be attributed to COVID-19 pandemic, experts said. Gen Zers were likely in college at the time and had to transition to online classes. They became accustomed to being off screen and may not directly correlate eye contact with paying attention. I do think that COVID had something to do with it because we were already going in a trend where so many were comfortable on a phone or behind a computer, said etiquette expert. Excuse me. Excuse me. Etiquette expert Jules Hurst. Etiquette expert. I got to become an etiquette expert. Get my card. Hi, Howie Hain, etiquette expert. Is the knock against Gen Z valid? Branding agency CEO Sonny Bono has spent about 10 who has about 10 Gen Z employees, said his work etiquette issue is said the work etiquette issue is overblown, especially when it comes to managers being less willing to tolerate boundary crossing behavior. Here we go. Look at that boundary crossing behavior. You know what that is? Sonny Bono is a you know who she voted for. I think leaders sort of see their Gen Z boldness as a breach of professionalism. But it's exactly what it is. Sort of see it? It is. It is. Sort of see it. She thinks Gen Z feels less obligated to their employer than previous generations, who may have been willing to work late without extra pay, take meetings during vacations, and defer to their employer. Imagine that, and defer to their employers, as if the employer can't be in charge. Wow, that's a radical idea. What does a boss mean if you're not in charge? Gen Z was raised with the outlook of work-life balance, stability, and technology. Bono said they're watching their parents and grandparents work tirelessly, sometimes at the cost of their well-being. So many of them have decided they don't want that. Well, guess what? They won't have success either. And if we have too many of those, the nation won't have success. What can be done? Bono recommends Gen Zers do lots of research on job hunting to make sure there's a cultural and values fit. If you want a company that respects work-life balance, you should find one that already does, rather than expect a company to change its existing value structure. This is so silly. This is you know what, I can't read any more of this because the rest of it is about, she's basically condoning this. I mean, I like this line. Eye contact is important, especially when meeting with clients or patients. It shows you're paying attention. Like, this is a revelation, that eye contact. So I leave this. I put it aside. We got what we want out of it. Okay, we got the statistics. We see what's happening, and that's charity begins at home. Work begins at home. If you have your kids, and I'm guilty. Okay, we dropped the ball on some things. Back to that handshake, the hat off, look people in the eyes, appropriate dressing for the right place. Okay? Okay, let's go. Let's share. Let's stop sharing. And what do we got next? All right. No. Oh, okay. You know what it's time for? All right. I know what it's time for. All right. It's time for us to, we're going to wrap up soon. So let's pull back and, we spoke about, we had a great coaching clip the other day. And after that, it led to a little discussion about the shepherds and the magi and about ignorance, or at least uneducated versus educated, and coming together to both adore the Christ child. And, as before we leave the Christmas season, right? And formally, the Christmas season ends with the in liturgical sense. And if you're not religious, or stay here, because it's a way to frame our day. And you take these little moments, these calendar-based events, and you say, what can I get from that? So I heard something yesterday, and it made me think of something else. And so as the Christmas season ends with the birth of the baptism of Jesus. So he's older, and he gets baptized by John the Baptist. And the reason the baptism is significant is that, and what does it mean to us? The baptism is, of course, renewal. It's a cleansing. It's a new birth. So he's born in the Bethlehem, Jesus spends his years hidden away. Nobody knows what he's doing. He's with his parents and his earthly parents, his mother Mary, and his foster father Joseph, his relatives, and he's learning how to be a carpenter. He's learning the Psalms. His father's bringing him to the temple. Called the hidden life of Jesus. Okay, and then his public ministry begins, and the beginning of his public ministry is usually considered when he's baptized by John the Baptist, who began his public ministry earlier, and people thought John was maybe the Messiah. And you remember the famous, I'm not the Messiah. He's announcing that the Messiah is coming, and that he's not worthy to unstrap the sandal of the Messiah. So John's baptizing, and Jesus comes to be baptized. And John says, you should be baptizing me. And Jesus says, no, go ahead. I'm paraphrasing, but go ahead and do it. Now, Jesus doesn't have original sin. He's not dirty. He doesn't need, but he's showing that, I'm going to do what you do. Everything I do, you do. So I'm going to get baptized. You get baptized. Right. And, this is a baptism of Jesus is going to give them the baptism of redemption and freedom from sin and death, right? Through his crucifixion, death, and resurrection. So John's baptism, okay, is not the same as what Jesus's baptism, which is his life. His life baptizes us. Okay. So Jesus' baptism is, and it's all four gospels talk about the baptism. So it's a very important, and it's the beginning of public ministry. So what does it mean for us? How do we take it? How do we take this liturgical moment? So Christmas comes, we celebrate it. We're reminded of the simplicity of life, the joy of family. It's also a cold, dark time. Remember I told you Christmas comes around the darkest day of the year, and every day after Jesus' birth, the days get longer. Hopefully warmer soon. It's cold here. Okay. So we're starting to move towards spring already. And baptism is going to water the ground, water our ground, wash us clean, begin something new, start to plan something new, put things together. My friend Rob keeps, routine, a healthy routine. What do I need to get rid of, and what do I keep in my life, and how do I shape my day to be clean of heart and my mind straight? And okay, so Jesus is baptized, and one of the key parts of the end of Christmas for me, and it's not a biblical thing, it's just a tradition, is I love the little drummer boy. I love that little claymation cartoon years ago. I really liked it when I was a boy. And so I'm going to tell you a little story, and then I'm going to read you a blog. So my daughter used to go to a great Catholic school, and they did this wonderful nativity. It's a very elaborate nativity, and I think it was like second and third graders did it. And before they used to do it in the school, but before they would do like a dress rehearsal at this convent where the sisters who founded the school, and almost all of them were no longer working in the school because they were too old, but they had they would go to their convent where the older sisters still lived, and they would do the dress rehearsal on site at the convent. And I went to watch when my daughter was in it, and I was so moved. And I was really moved by they had a little drummer boy part in it. And I wrote about it, and I wrote about it many years ago, and I'm going to read it to you. And I want us to think about the baptism of Jesus. Like what I said, the renewal, the beginning of a public ministry. What's your public ministry? What's my public ministry? And we could have several over and over again. But what are we beginning? A new beginning, a new creation. What do we start? We start anew. So, combine that with the drummer boy. So let me share this with you, and then we'll tie the two together, and we'll wrap it up. All right. So let me share with you my screen here. Okay. And there we go. There's my drummer boy, right? Not my drum. There's my magi. Okay. And make sure it works. Okay. So this is from my blog, howiehain.com. Okay. Poetry, prose, fragments, notes, sketches, and studies. This was December 19th, 2017. Okay. Little drummer boys and girls, Here we go. Yesterday, I witnessed a dress rehearsal for a live nativity. The cast was made up of first and second graders, and the audience was mostly composed of residents of a retirement home for religious sisters, Franciscans. It was spectacular. Last week, I was at Radio City Music Hall to watch the Rockettes in their Christmas spectacular. It was quite a production. Sitting in the dark this morning, I cannot help but contrast the two. I can't help but relate to the 7-year-old who played the part of the little drummer boy. As that child walked so slowly toward the foot of the altar, where the rehearsal was being staged, I saw my vocation in an entirely different light. The children were all singing their hearts out, and many of the 80 and 90-year-old sisters were mouthing the words. The boy with the drum didn't utter a sound. He just kept walking, slowly, extremely slowly, toward the altar. Every once in a while, ever so slightly, pretending to tap the 2 tiny sticks upon a toy drum. He was beautifully awkward. There was no greater spectacle on earth at that very moment. Shall I dare to say, no greater event that heaven or earth has ever known. For a child was born. We were all being born. Come, they told me, a newborn king to see. Our finest gifts we bring to lay before the king. So to honor him, when we come, little baby, I am a poor boy too. I have no gift to bring that's fit to give the king. Shall I play for you on my drum? Mary nodded. The ox and lamb kept time. I played my drum for him. I played my best for him. Then he smiled at me and my drum. Oh, my goodness, it's beautiful, isn't it? It's really beautiful. Not what I wrote. What's beautiful is the innocence of that little boy, right? And it made me realize that he was so awkward, right? And we're all awkward. But he was beautifully awkward because he was doing what he was supposed to be doing. And the lines from the little drummer boy, it's like a prayer. And there were so many different versions of the song. You know, one of the great ones is by Joan Jett, the rocker, right? Joan Jett. And it's great, you know, when someone makes a song their own. But let's look at those words again. Come, they told me, a newborn king to see. So we're all invited to come and see the presence of God's glory in the most humble setting. Our finest gifts we bring. We bring what we bring. If you're going to go see the king, you better bring something of value to lay before the king. So to honor him when we come. So if you're going to go see God and you're going to present, what are you going to bring to him? What are you going to bring to God? What do I bring to God? See how this is tied together to the baptism and a new project and what do we bring to the world? What do we bring to God? If we can't bring it to God, we bring it to our fellow humans that is God, his children. They're all God's children. So, you know, if you want to please somebody, you want to bless somebody, and they have children, do you think being nice to their children will make them happy? Of course. We want people to be nicer to our children than to us. If someone's going to get a gift, I'd rather them get a gift for my kid than for me, because we love our kids. So we look at the lines again. Think about it. Come, they told me, a newborn king to see. Well, you can't go see the actual Jesus, the physical human that lived He still does live, but lived on earth with us. That's 2,000 years ago. But we can see the son and daughters of Jesus, the brothers and sisters of Jesus, and the children of God the Father. Jesus is our sibling, our brother. So everybody human is a sibling of Jesus or a child of Father God. So just like you want people to be nice to your children, then be nice to God's children. And if you can't go see the actual king, well, go see the children of the king, the princes and princesses. Everyone you see is a prince or princess of God, a child of God, and God is king. So therefore they're princes and princesses. So when we see a child, or we see an older person, or we see any person, we can see everyone as a child of God. So we come to who do you see today? I mean, this is a hard thing to do. But I challenge you. Try, if you look at somebody as a child, a lot of the stuff goes away. Someone who really annoys you, and they're a jerk. But imagine them as a child. They still may be a pain in the neck, but now they're a kid who's a pain in the neck. And you may wonder, why are they a pain in the neck? Maybe they're neglected. They don't get enough attention. Maybe they got real strife at home, or maybe there's a few. And then you start to see it with more eyes of compassion. And we use our charity. Charity is not just money. Charity is our perspective. How much charity can I use? What can I find the most charitable perspective of why this person is annoying me and bothering me? And sometimes they just are. But it's much easier to see it in terms of a child. Right? I used to say, if a child is crying and crying and crying and crying, and they're being annoying, and you yell at them, but then you find out they had a fever, you feel terrible. You feel like a big bully. You thought they were just misbehaving, but meanwhile they're crying. This 5-year-old's crying because they're sick, or they're injured, or they're really frightened of something. You just thought they were being spoiled. And you find out, you say, oh my goodness, I feel terrible. I mean, that poor child was, running a fever or fear or injured or something, and I only made it worse by being impatient and raising my voice. Well, we can do that with adults. So if you take somebody and say, well, what if they were a child? How would I treat them? And then you eyes of compassion, and you're more charitable. And it's connected to here. So we can't go see Jesus. We can't. We're not the Magi or the shepherds. That's Drummer Boy. But we see other humans, and we're going to see the newborn king. And if you're going to go see the king, what do you bring? Your best. And what does he say? I'm a poor boy, little baby in the manger who's got nothing. I'm a poor boy too. What do I have? What do I really have to offer God? What can I offer God? What can you offer God? I have no gift to bring. I have nothing to bring that's fit to give the king. And then he says, ready? This is it. Shall I play for you on my drum? He's just got his drum. You have a drum. I have a drum. God gives everybody a drum. What's your drum? What's my drum? There it is. What's our drum? Everybody's got a drum. You got to play it for the king. Don't worry what the world thinks of the drum, or how many likes or subscribers, how much you get paid for you. No, play the drum. You like jazz, then sing jazz. You like the color. If you like to draw, if you like to play basketball, you're excellent at knitting. You're great at numbers or science or whatever the banking, whatever the field is, fishing. What's your drum? Everybody's got a drum. It's very simple life. You play the drum that God gave you, and you play it for him. And that's the gift that you give him. And nobody else in the world would see the value. But when shall I play for you on my drum? Mary nodded. The mother of Jesus. Yes, play for him. It's simple. Play for him. The ox and lamb kept time. The ox and lamb that are breathing on Jesus, right? The beautiful image of the nostrils are keeping the warm air coming from the nostrils of the beast of burden, keep the infant warm. It's cool, right? But those same animals start nodding their heads, right? They're keeping time with the simple poor boy who has nothing to give God, no gift to give except the gift of his gift, his hobby, his. This is my gift, by the way. I really do. I love this, and I think this up. So I'm going to keep doing it. That's why I like this. This is my little drum. I have nothing to give but this podcast, so I'm giving it. I have these old blogs. I'm giving it. Mary nodded. The ox and lamb kept time. I played my drum for him. I played my best for him. Then he smiled at me and my drum. And then Jesus smiled at him and his drum, at him and his gift, at him and his talent. Whatever you're given today, whatever you've been given at your birth, and it may have taken you many years to discover it. You may not have discovered it yet, but it's probably the thing that you like to do most, whether you're paid or not. The thing that if you just are free, completely free today to do for no reward, no pay, what is that? That's the drum. And we're reminded to play. Play it for the king. Mary's telling you to play, and Jesus is nodding at both you and your drum. Let me close this out and say formal goodbye to you. So thank you. This has been another great one. I'm really having fun here. Please continue to send your comments and subscribe and send articles and videos. I was talking to some friends, and I think that the best part of the show is when I receive emails. So I love things that go into a little more depth, and they can be critical. It can be anything. It's part of the dialogue. So you have a great day. I pray that we all can be like the little drummer boy and have that degree of awkward beauty, or beautifully awkward. All right, you take care. I'm going to play a little music on the way out because I like to do that. Let me play it here. Let me play my music. Where is it? I need my music. All right, here we go. Here's my music. I love this. Everybody likes our music for our show too. So let me share it. Nope, that's the wrong one. Oh my goodness, look what I'm doing. Right on live air, and I'm messing up. Oh my goodness gracious. There it is. That's the one. So you see what happens? Right at the end of the show, I was doing great, and then I just totally messed up. All right, here we go.
Bye.